Stalin.
Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
Looks like you got Vyacheslav Molotov. From the time Vyacheslav Molotov entered into secondary school in 1902, he was fixated on revolutionary activities. Molotov even led the illegal revolutionaries organization at his school. Molotov was an old Bolshevik, and Stalin took him under his wing as a protege. He was initiated as a full member of the Politburo in 1926. Molotov was appointed chairman of the Sarnokrom in 1930 and served in that position until 1941. He was then appointed as foreign minister from 1939 to 1949 and then again from 1953 to 1956. During his time as foreign minister, he was the Soviet leader and principal signer of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of 1939, more widely known as the Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact. Now, let's spin again and see who else you get.
There you go. Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
Looks like you got another good one. Lazar Kaganovich. Lazar was born into a farm and offered Stalin a unique perspective on industry. Lazar was an old Bolshevik and had been a member since 1911. After the revolution, Stalin took Lazar under his wing. He was later appointed Commissar of Industry. Lazar and Molotov were in charge of implementing the collectivization policy in the early 1930s. Their poor implementation helped to cause the Great Famine of 1932, also known as the Holodomor in the Ukraine. He also played a large part in the arrest of many in industries such as the railroad, oil, and heavy industry. Because of Lazar's ruthlessness and the execution of Stalin's orders, he was nicknamed the Iron Lazar. This was true all throughout his life, especially during the period of Great Terror starting in 1936. In fact, his signature appears on 188 out of the 357 documented execution lists. Now, let's spin again and see who else you get.
Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
Looks like you got Lavrentiy Beria. Beria was the longest-lived and most influential of Stalin's secret police chiefs. He also administered vast sections of the Soviet state and served as Marshal of the Soviet Union in command of the Cheka. Although Beria's name is closely identified with the Great Terror, his leadership of the organization marked an easing of the repression begun under Yezhov. Over 100,000 people were released from the labor camps. Joseph Stalin trusted and liked Beria, and Beria was known to set up superiors with women. Now spin again and see who you get next.
There you go. Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
Interesting. Alexander Poskrivashev. From 1924 on, he worked with Joseph Stalin when he was assigned to the Kremlin. He became an administrator in the secret section of the Central Committee shortly thereafter, which would later become the Special Section. Between 1924 and 1929, he was a manager of the Office of General Secretary of Central Committee. Spin again.
Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
Andrei Zhdanov. Zhdanov was appointed by Joseph Stalin to direct the Soviet Union's cultural policy in 1946. One of his first actions was to censor Russian writers such as Anna Akhmatova. He formulated what became known as the Zhdanov Doctrine. Zhdanov was a major perpetrator of the Great Terror and personally approved 176 documented execution lists. In 1947, he organized the Kominform, designed to coordinate and control the communist parties around the world. Now spin again!
Thank you.
Looks like you got Georgy Malenkov. Georgy Malenkov had big dreams for the USSR, and his family connections with Stalin helped him rise to power. He was the candidate member of the Politburo and Communist Party of Soviet Union aide to Stalin, but many of his programs were shot down and lost the job of chief of the NKVD to Beria. He worked with Lavrentiy Beria to execute the reigns of terror for Stalin. He wasn't liked by many of the other members of the Politburo because he decreased the nuclear arms in Russia after he realized how powerful they were. He eventually was exiled to Kazakhstan. Now spin again.
There you go. Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
Ooh, Nikita Khrushchev, nice. Khrushchev was the eventual successor of Stalin. His hard work and knowledge of the factory and mine conditions set him apart from everyone else. Working with Lazar Kaganovich, he established himself as party organizer in Kharkov and Kiev, and eventually governed Ukraine. While working under Stalin, he approved of the acts of terror and was known as Stalin's enforcer. Now it's time for the final spin.
There you go. Grab that for me, please. Thank you.
The final member of Stalin's inner circle was Clement Voroshilov. He was an old Bolshevik and a close friend of Stalin. He was the Commissar of Defense and a member of the Politburo's Central Committee. During Stalin's acts of terror during the 1930s, he played a central role and was a pawn of Stalin's during the time, turning his back on many former army generals. He failed to keep Leningrad safe from Nazi Germany during World War II, and he lost his position.
Well, looks like that's all we have for you tonight. Join us next time on Stalin.